the Leica Q2, a camera I never thought I would get my hands on. So today's video, we're going to talk about some of the features of it, what the back looks like, what the front looks like, how the camera looks, and then we're going to dive into some photos I take, and then I'll talk for a little bit about my thoughts on this camera. And now we're going to look at the back, and what's really cool is you hit this button right here, it's actually going to allow you to crop your images. So you can have it cropped already when you take the image. So when you go into Lightroom, already cropped, ready to go. And you can obviously uncrop it as well, but it's a really cool feature in the camera. Then you have the play button to look back at your photos, and then you have a function button that has the self timer there, which you can customize to whatever you want. Then we have our menu, and you can see the whole menu back here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this area right here because it's going to kind of allow you to customize the way your image looks. If you want a natural, monochrome, vivid, or just the standard photo. And then here's the rest of the menu system, just like you would have on any other camera. And you can just scroll through and see where everything is. And you have your scene mode, and then you have your menu system. Very easy menu system. You just scroll down, and obviously you have the main menu, and you can just go through it like that. Then it goes to the 2, and then it will just keep going to 3, and you can see all the different function settings from this menu. So it's a really easy menu to actually use. And then here's your shutter speed button on the top, which is very neat. Fuji does this as well, and I absolutely love when these camera companies do that because it's just a fun dial. And then here we have a macro mode, which is one of my favorite things. All you have to do is twist this, and it goes from standard to macro. And then at the top, there is your f-stop or aperture ring, whatever you want to call it. It goes from a 1.7 to an f16. But when we turn this camera to the side, this right here, we have to unlock this. But when we unlock this by just pressing that button in and twisting a little bit, we're able to focus ourselves. So we can turn it off autofocus and actually focus in ourselves if we need to do that. This will come in handy, especially when using macro mode. And then right here, this is the camera on and off switch, as well as the shutter button. You just have to press the button on the inside and it'll take the picture for you. And then this part where my thumb's at, that's customized for shutter speed if you want to do that, or ISO, depending on how you want to do it. And then here, we just got to turn this switch, and you can see as soon as I put my thumb in, very easy, pops right out. That's for the battery. So your battery goes right there. And then this part right here is for your SD card. So you just close it, throw your SD card in, and now you're ready to go. But my favorite thing is when you turn this around, just look at how great this camera looks. It looks absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? Just has a really cool feel to it. So on the left, we see the before, and on the right, we see the after. And you can see right away the dynamic range and how easy this was for me to play with, to get better colors and to bring back a lot of those shadows up here that were way too dark. On the left-hand side, we can see it basically looks black. On the right-hand side, we can see that that's actually underneath that roof right there. And then just look by the chairs, how dark it was down here on the ground. And then as we go up, right, you can just see how much it was able to be brought back. You can see how easy these DNG files are to deal with, because I wanted to create kind of like a contrast between the colors, because we have all this blue right here on this sign and then the orange right here. So I wanted to create that in the sky because it's after a storm. So we can see on this left-hand side right here, it's just a very dreary and dull, versus this has just that blue tint to it you would kind of get from the sky after a storm. So I was able to kind of add some of that and create this contrast and kind of have all those colors go together. So you have that feel right here with these chairs and this pole and then this sign. Then even underneath right here, we can see that I brought that back and that was blue. So then with the sky and with this sign back here, because those are the colors of the high school as well, that orange and blue, very easy to just kind of turn that sky that color. But to me, the amazing thing is the detail when we zoom in. When we zoom in, look at the detail we get on both sides. Now, I made the colors pop a little more on the right, just so that way the viewer gets a better experience, because that is what photography is about. It's about expressing yourself and getting people to look at your image. But just look at this. Look at that amount of detail that we're able to see, and that's zoomed in at 200%. And this image is not even cropped. Now, if we want to go and crop this as well, it's still gonna look great because of that 47 megapixel sensor. Now, the image just looks completely different if you ask me, looking at it now versus if we go back to when it was not cropped. But if you need to crop, you can absolutely do that. And we'll look at a couple more really quick. So in this image, we can see what I did. I dropped the blacks pretty hard on it. And then what I ended up doing was upping the shadows really far. And then the whites I dropped as well and dropped the highlights down pretty hard. I didn't want it to look too crazy or anything like that. I wanted to kind of keep it the way it looked because that pink building kind of just pops out already. So you don't really need to make the sky look too interesting as well. Because when you have this kind of sky right here where it's very overcast after rain, that pink just pops even more with that color of sky.
So I've spent a week so far with the Q2 from Leica, and this is one of those cameras that's been on my list to try for a while, because any video you see, everybody's always talking about Leicas and, oh, you need to shoot Leica. It's just a different experience. The photos are so great and everything you hear from them. But then you go and look at the price point of a Leica, and let's be real, 90% of us can't afford the price point of a Leica. Even this Q2 is 5 years old, and it still goes for $4,000 new. And to me, that's a lot of money for a camera that's 5 years old, especially when you can't even change the lens on it. Now, that is huge, right? You're at this 27 millimeter focal length, which is interesting because you're stuck there. You can't do anything else. You can crop in on your photos, and because this has a 47 megapixel sensor, cropping in is extremely easy. But it does have some cool modes where you can see what the image would look like at 35 mils, at 50 millimeter, and at 75 millimeter. It shoots DNG and JPEG, and with those DNG files, when you put them into Lightroom, it'll automatically have it cropped for you, which to me is a really cool feature. Now the lens goes from a 1.7 to a 16 millimeter. So you've got this very shallow depth of field versus a Fuji where it goes from a 2 to a 16 millimeter. It also has this cool little button right here that you can switch back and forth. It's macro mode. So if you need to take some macro images, you can do that just by twisting this part right here, which to me is a very, very neat feature. But what is neat is this screen on the back is a touch screen. Now it does not come out, it's stuck where it is. So if you're looking for a tilt screen or a swivel screen, this is not gonna be the one. Most of these point and shoots do not have that. The Fuji just tilts out like this, right? And it comes out very nicely like that. But if you're looking for a swivel, the Fuji's not gonna have that either. Now for the average everyday person, would you be better off buying something like this or something that I'm shooting with right now, like the Sony a7 IV, or any type of camera like that? If you're just looking to have some fun and you don't want to be bogged down with buying a bunch of lenses or doing like that, and you're okay with having something that's like this, where you have that one lens and that's all you have, and you have the money for it because it's pricey, then absolutely go do this. But you can also do something like this that's also a lot smaller, this Fuji X100 series. The price point's a lot lower, and it's basically doing the same thing, except this is a 35 millimeter focal length because it's a crop sensor lens. But who is this actually for? To me, if you're a hobbyist and you don't want to have a bunch of camera lenses and you just want to have something you can grab, walk around and take photos, and you have the budget for it. Now, the budget is always the most important thing with this. If you have the budget for it, absolutely, it's a great camera. It's a fun camera just to walk around, take some photos. The DNG files look phenomenal from it, and you can easily edit them very smoothly, and it's just fun to have a camera to walk around and shoot with without having to have like 20 lenses with you. So is this camera for you? Honestly, that's gonna be up to you. Do you have the budget for it? Because a lot of us don't. Me personally, I borrowed this from Lens Rentals, and if you've never used Lens Rentals before, this is not an ad for them. It would have been a good segue. So maybe Lens Rentals, if you see this video, come on, let's work together. I rented it from them for about a week because when it comes to the price point of this camera, I wasn't 100% sure I would want to buy it. Now, it's a cool camera. It's a great camera. I'm having a ton of fun with it. The more I use it, the more I want to buy it. But justifying the price point is hard for me. when I can buy an A7S III for the same price point and do more video work that I'm getting into versus walking around and just having this. Now, could you use this for video? Sure, absolutely. But when I'm already invested in the Sony equipment like the A7 IV, and I can get something that can complement the A7 IV like the A7S III or the FX3, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you got to think it in terms of that. Now, if you've just got money to spend and you want a great point and shoot, then yeah, go ahead and do it. Point and shoots to me are a very underrated camera. You have the Q2s and just the ones Leica makes. You have the ones Fuji makes like the X100 series. And then you have the Ricos, the GRs that are also point and shoots that can fit easily in your pocket. They look like the old Nikon Coolpixes that a lot of us probably remember and started photography with. And having something like this is just fun, and it just makes photography just a little different because you're kind of stuck at a certain focal length, so it makes you be a little more creative. But should you buy it? Like I said, it's gonna depend on you. To me, it lives up to the hype of what a lot of the Shilltubers are talking about when it comes to Leica, because it's a cool camera, it's a fun camera. It's just something different about using a point and shoot. That's why I use my Fuji on like 90% of stuff I do, is just because I like walking around with it and having that with me versus having to carry all of my stuff. So I know this wasn't the most in-depth video about the Q2. I basically just want to talk about my everyday experience using it, because I know a lot of you are like me. You're gonna use this for everyday experience. Your kids playing in the backyard, images of your dog, when you go to town and you're walking around on a Saturday, grabbing coffee, and you want to just take some photos or something like that. That's what a majority of us are going to be using this for. We're not going to be on some ranch somewhere or on top of a mountain or somewhere in Europe all the time. We're just going to be taking it in our backyard and having fun and thinking, wow, this is an amazing camera. And I will say that this is an amazing camera. And the design is very cool. It's very sturdy. But the price point is what makes it a hard sell for me, just like it would for a majority of you out there, because it is an expensive camera. And I know that's not really a great answer, because I would love to buy it, but I just can't make myself spend that much money versus using this Q2. So I know that's probably not a great answer. If I could afford it, I would buy it. But for now, renting it from Lens Rentals, and maybe one day we'll get enough YouTube followers to be able to use the YouTube money to purchase one of these. So if you want to help with that, hit that subscribe button, maybe hit that like button, drop a comment down below. If you've got questions about it that I could possibly answer, which I may or may not be able to. I appreciate you watching this video. God bless. I'll see you in the next one.